How about I pearl with Cheryl? Good morning, everyone. And how are my fellow teammates? Are we all on? Well, unfortunately, just to let you know, I'm on my phone doing our meeting this morning, so I can't see the whole panels. I can only see one person at a time. So I just want to welcome everyone here on this beautiful day. And let's just jump right into this time of gathering. And just allow yourself to get comfortable. Allow yourself to feel the presence upon which you're experiencing right now. Allow the seat to support your body and allow your body to accept that support. And so in this moment right here and right now, I recognize that there is only one life happening. That life is spirit. That life is the universe. That life is God. Whatever you call it, it is. It is the source and expression of all life. Peace, love, and harmony are attributes of that power. And in this moment now, I recognize my oneness, that I am the expression of that one divine power. And so since I recognize that divinity within me, I see and know the divinity of all life as divine expressions of spirits. And so in this knowing right here and now, I just allow this time together to unfold perfectly, moves and operates through, as, and in each one. And because of that fact, this moment together is perfect. What is said is needed to be said. What is heard is needed to be heard, all through the ears and eyes and feelings of love. That love, which is the power of spirit, that divine creativity. For the next hour, I know that life, love, hearts are opened. New points of views are realized. In that realization, gratitude for just life itself. Gratitude for the knowing of spirit expressing as me. And so in this gratitude, I allow this time together to unfold perfectly with great expectancy. I allow spirit to move upon itself. And in that knowing, there is such gratitude, such peace. And in that peace, I release my word as law, knowing it is perfectly done right here and right now. And together we say, and so it is. Well, good morning, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this fine and lovely, beautiful, cool day, especially from where I'm sitting. This is going to be a great show. So I'd like to open this time up. Every week we have a question that we'd like to open up with, that each of us like to have our 2 cents. Some of us has 4 cents, but allow us to get some insight, allows you as the viewer to get to know us as ministers of CSL Palm Desert a little bit more. And so today's question is, and I'm going to bring it to everyone, is if you could go back in time to any place in history, where and when would you go and why? Well, that's a lot of history. but I think that I would have to say for myself, I love medieval time. You know, the Renaissance time, the time of expression, the time of art, when really the classes were starting to disassemble. They were still very much rigid, but just the idea of of people of that time, the artists of that, the people of influence, were really seeing life with new eyes and really coming up with some very intense questions, uh, not unlike what we are doing here today. So for that reason, I would have to say that yes, that Renaissance period. I was going to say medieval, but bam, right then and there, Renaissance. The artistic creativity, the way they painted, the way they sculpted, the new ideas of flight. It was just a great period of time, and that's why I would like to go back to that time to be a part of that influence, for the rest of humanity. So next we have going to go next. Oh, it's going to be Reverend Gail. Good morning, Gail.
Good morning, William. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for that great opening prayer. You know, it didn't take me long as I was contemplating this question to decide where I'd want to go back to. And I decided I'd love to go back to between 1 BC and 1 AD, or Common Era, if you use that term, because that is during the time that Jesus's mother, Mary, was living. And for me, Mary is such a beautiful expression of the divine. She epitomizes for me the spiritual awareness that is within all of us. And I say Mary instead of Jesus because she was the one who truly witnessed the birth of Christ awareness, of that divine awareness that her son Jesus taught. And because I'm a mother to 6 children, I often wonder what it was like for Mary to live this witness as I've witnessed the expanded awareness of my children, remembering that Mary also had at least 4 other sons and likely 2 daughters. So for me, Mary epitomizes the feminine energy, that energy of love, of faith, of acceptance, and really of creativity. She's that part of my consciousness that knows that I am one as the divine. And I know that history would illustrate that this process was challenging and at times really painful for Mary. And the immediate results may not have been as dramatic or glorious as she had always hoped. But this is true for each one of us. So, like Mary, I like to think that my awareness grows and it's nurtured through many things, including distractions and shadows. Had I lived during Mary's time, I sense we would have been good friends. So, Reverend Brad, how about you? Where would you like to go back in history?
Thanks, Reverend Gail. Cool question, but even cooler answers so far. That's great. You know, when I first read our question, the first thing I thought of was the last Sillamar conference that Ernest Holmes went to. A while back, every summer, hundreds of people would participate from Centers for Spiritual Living and go to a conference on the Pacific Coast near Monterey. And the last one he spoke, I think it was 1959, and he did a sermon on the mount, he called it. And that'd be kind of cool to be with all the people of that era. And then I forgot about that answer. And when Reverend William reminded us of the question about, 20 minutes ago, I first thought, I'd love to go back at my son's birth. I only have one child, and be more present there. But what's funny is as I'm thinking about that, and it's on the back of my mind, and we're getting ready for a talk, I'm reliving the whole thing from, the peaceful setting I have a video of, to I go away to get a cookie, downstairs in the cafeteria, and I come back and it's chaos and hoses hooked up and oxygen. And after, 20 hours of labor, they said, oh, we're going to do C-section. So it was kind of funny here. That was the first thing I thought. It'd be wonderful to be more present somewhere. But my memories are so full. It's like, well, I was pretty friggin' present if I can pull that up after 21 years. So that was kind of thing. But it's still great to just think about that. So, hey, Reverend Cheryl, what you got? Where would you like to go?
I think that mine would be, I would like to go back because I just love that era and the beauty of probably, believe it or not, but the 1940s, even though there was World War II going on, after the war, the whole country just was like in this massive celebration, you know, just the joy and that it's over. And it wasn't an immediate effect, but it started affecting. And here I'm taking something from Dale. It was the clothes and the shoes. God, they were fabulous. All of the movies and things that come out during that period of time. I mean, Edith Head and some of the some of the other designers that worked on the movies and stuff and the clothes and things. Wow, what a beautiful era! And it just seems like the country was so grateful and so happy to finally be through that horrible experience. That the delight and the joy, it reflected in the movies, it reflected in the cars, you know. And I'm a car girl, in case y'all didn't know that. I love cars. But just all of the different things. It's like, you know, back then if you saw a certain car, you knew exactly who made it and what it was. Now if I see a car, I couldn't tell you if it was a Hyundai or a Prius or whatever, you know, a Toyota, because they all kind of look exactly alike. Not exactly, but really closely alike. And I know that's because of aerodynamics and all that other stuff. But there was just something fabulous about that era where the cars and the clothes and the people and the joy. And that to me would be the perfect time to go back to. So now, Reverend Lori, where do you want to go?
Well, you just brought me back to Don and I in Halloween. We had a costumer who dressed us in the 1940s garb, and it was fabulous. So I know my husband would choose that era. He loves the cars and the clothes and all of that you just talked about. I also love Brad's answer. I would love to hear Ernest Holmes deliver the seminar lectures in person. That would be amazing. But if I could only choose one time to go back to, I'm very attached to running water and all of that. So I probably wouldn't go way back to the Renaissance or the time of Jesus. I don't know. I don't think I would. I don't think I would enjoy that a lot. I would choose actually only 2.5 years ago. Um, I would on March 25th. I would have gone back east to be with my mother for her birthday. I didn't know she was about to pass. She left suddenly, and we had planned on going back in the fall. And of course, by then she was gone. And so if there was one thing I could change and go back in time, that would be it. And obviously would have stood from that time until the time she passed. So that would be my one going back. And even though she lived in a small town, there was running water. So Reverend Dale.
Thank you. Well, William took mine because I was going to say the Renaissance. So I'm just to be different, I'll choose another time and place. So I'm going to choose Europe in the 1920s because of the art that was starting to emerge, and not just the visual art, but the literature. It was so exciting and rich, and people were really expressing from a whole different place of reality that we might talk about as the subconscious. They were letting all of that stuff that's underneath to come out, and the honesty and the realism and the being present with really what was going on in life, instead of just making things pretty and distracting. They were really talking about what people were going through and their life experiences. So that would be where I would go back. Besides the Renaissance, as you can see, I love art and literature, and the Renaissance and the 1920s were such a fertile ground for creativity to be expressed in so many different mediums. And so I would like to go back in time to be a part of history when that was really happening. And who knows, maybe that's what we're going to start to see in our world, since everything's kind of coming up for a new creation to be manifested as we are moving through these very strange times right now in our world. And speaking of strange times, I will be putting out the subject that the beautiful Sensational Six will be discussing. And, you know, we choose one of us each week to decide on the topic, and we're really just open. We're open and receptive to whatever bubbles up, and we always find something to talk about. And this week, when I was pondering what to speak to, I thought, well, there's so many different things that we can talk about with spirituality and ways to look at life and all that good stuff. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to be present to what's something that's going on in our country right here and right now that's really triggering people, that's really causing a lot of angst to come up. And I thought, what perfect timing to bring our spiritual insights into something that's really challenging for a lot of people right now. And what that is our upcoming election in November. And I just want to preface by saying this isn't going to be about politics at all. This isn't going to be about this side and that side and how to make a decision. This is going to be about how to look at what we are going through inside of ourselves and as a society, and how to look at it through a spiritual lens, how to navigate this territory using spiritual truth. This is what we're here to teach you today. So I just want to make that clear from the beginning, because we honor everybody's opinions, everybody's choices. They are your own, and we honor them all. So there is no right or wrong. So basically, there's so many things that happen in our world that invite us to deepen ourselves spiritually. So this election is just another thing that's coming up, and this is the form of what it is. The diversity, the opinions, the strong feelings that are coming up, and it's such a lovely, I know it might not feel lovely, but it really is directing us to look at ourselves spiritually and to find out where we can adjust ourselves and where we can see we are not standing in our spiritual truth. And so the first thing that I see that this is directing us to do is to look inside of ourselves. If we're very triggered, this is an opportunity to look inside and ask ourselves why we are triggered. And I want to read this quote to you by Ernest Holmes. This is from this beautiful, I guess you would call it an essay. It's called Sermon by the Sea. And he says this: "You will never discover a person who is full of emotional judgment and condemnation of others, who is doing anything other than unconsciously releasing the tension of a burden so great to be borne that he does not even permit it to come to the light of day to be seen, for he could not face it." And I think it's really important to know this, because I think a lot of our unconscious stuff is being given an outlet through what's taking place in our society right now with the us versus them and all this anger and resentment and just real, kind of fighting energy. And to just understand that beneath the surface, there's something else going on inside of ourselves. And I will be very transparent. This has brought up my stuff too. And so this has directed me to look inside instead of externalizing everything and taking sides. It's allowed me to say, well, wait a minute, there's something inside of me that's just getting reflected out there. So it's an opportunity to look within and see what's going on in here. What fears, where am I not seeing God in this? And so it's a great opportunity for us to discover that hidden territory of what conflicts might be within ourselves, where we're not seeing that everything in our world really is a manifestation of the divine, even though at the snapshot that we're seeing, we may not be seeing that. But this is a time to look within and see that. I know that people are saying, yeah, but when I say this, they're going, yeah, but these things are happening. These things could happen. And it looks like things that have happened in the past, and we need to be mindful. We can't fall asleep. And I am not suggesting we fall asleep. What I am suggesting is that we apply spiritual principle. And I know, Cheryl, Reverend Cheryl's going to love this. I'm going to quote from Thomas Troward. Troward taught, and Ernest Holmes also brought into his philosophy, this idea that principle is not bound by precedent, which means basically that just because things have happened in our individual lives and historically, just because things have followed a certain path doesn't mean they're going to repeat themselves, because the principle of spirit doesn't just repeat itself. It doesn't hook into that. It's just our beliefs that do. So we have the opportunity to bring forth newness no matter what has happened and no matter what it looks like that happened in the past. So he says this, and bear with me, we all know how Troward can be. "Therefore, whatever may be the nature of our anxiety, we should endeavor to dispel it by the consideration that there may be already existing other facts we do not know of, which will produce a different result from the one we fear, and that in any case, there is a power which can produce new facts to our appeal to it." And so this is just knowing that there's a greater reality possible that does not have to be how things happened in the past. And I think it's so important to anchor into that knowing. So when you find yourself saying, but it looks so much like this in history, or this looks like it's going in this direction, so it's going to, and I need to feel fear. No, We go to principle and we say the highest and best good, and life is all about life, and that is what is emerging. So it's pulling out of that fear of repetition of what we think is going to happen that's negative, and moving into a higher possibility based on our spiritual reality and our spiritual knowing. And another thing that our beloved Dr. Tom taught us, and our Dr. James Mellon also reiterates constantly, he says that no matter, everything is always unfolding in its divine, right, and perfect way, no matter what. And I think a lot of us are hung up in what we're seeing, and we see this and that, and we're seeing, well, this doesn't look like what I thought it should look like for life to be wonderful and whole. This isn't what it looks like. But that is not what we teach. We say no matter what is coming into the appearance, whatever you're seeing is still bringing forth a higher good. And just to remember that and to anchor that, because I know what we teach here is that life is orderly and life is always unfolding perfectly. And so we need to stop being hypnotized by what's going on in the physical world and bring in a higher awareness, a higher possibility by means of our consciousness, so that we can relax into the flow, know good is unfolding, and just hold ourselves there and know that no matter what we're seeing, there is a greater good that is unfolding. And that's so important. And I know with quantum physics right now, what we're learning about is when you've got this collective energy of knowing that truth, that is what is out picturing. So I think it's just great for all of us who are listening to this, those of us that are in spiritual communities, to hold that higher knowing, because the more of us that are doing that, the greater that vision is going to come forth easily and effortlessly. So, my beloved Sensational Six, I have laid the groundwork for your brilliance to be revealed to our audience. So I am just going to throw the ball out to you guys and let you play with that.
Holy cow, Reverend Dale. I think in politics and Congress it's called a filibuster, where some person just stands up there and holds the podium. Let's breathe in more deeply what Reverend Dale just said. And in this live broadcast, we can't rewind, but when you're watching it again, rewind those 7 or 8 minutes to listen, because that wisdom was so concise and clear and principled. And we're all going to add to it, I'm sure, because we're all in the one. But Reverend Dale, that was all of this right here like this. And that's how I choose to look at anything outside my life. I like Sherwood says, I don't know what's going on in the heart and mind of that person, but I do know no one is verbally or physically angry because they're all at peace. Think about it. Does a parent, hopefully not anymore, but somebody probably still does a parent ever hit a child out of, let's see, what would be the best way to correct this behavior? I think a swat on the butt would be the best way to correct. No, it's out of anger. So we never know what's in back of it. But how can we come from love every time we see anything? And I joined Reverend Dale, and I've had to do media or news blockage for a few days here and there. And recently I had 2 clients do it, and one of my prayer partners do it, because it was just, it got too much for us. It's always okay to take a breath and tend the garden of spirit within me, so that when I open my eyes again, when I be more present to the outside world, I can only feel love and peace and the presence of the infinite all the time, regardless of what the actions are. Next.
So we have some comments here. Someone said that they're reading this thing called You, and it covered Jesus feeding the massive crowds with small amounts of bread and fish. Being there would have been powerful, actually powerful. And that's from Carrie. And talk about principle not being bound by precedent, because everything in that, the minds of the people in those crowds, there was no precedent for that. None, zero. So that's just a perfect example of a Thomas Charles principle not being bound by precedent. And le- uh, uh, The only thing certain is change. And we got a big old wow from our friend Lesia, of course, our number one fan. Thank you, Lesia, for being here every week. And I know there are other people that come every week, and we so appreciate you and we appreciate your questions and input. But I love this. The only thing certain is change. And it's getting in alignment with that, right? Just understanding we hang on so tightly sometimes, and change some it's messy. It's messy. It doesn't always look beautiful and have this flow to it. It's kind of fits and starts and ugh. I had the privilege of doing Dial and Idea this week, and I came across a quote from Joseph Campbell, and I thought, oh, perfect for our Sensational Six discussion. And I love Professor Campbell. He speaks to my heart with every word he utters. Something about him has me breathing deeply. His perspective, he holds everything very lightly, and it's something I aspire to be. And so I wanted to share this quote with you. We're all in free fall into the future. We don't know where we're going. Things are changing so fast. And always, when you're going through a long tunnel, anxiety comes along. And all you have to do to transform your hell into paradise is turn your fall into a voluntary act. It's a very interesting shift of perspective, and that's all it is. Joyful participation in the sorrows, and everything changes. Revolution doesn't have to do with smashing something. It has to do with bringing something forth. If you spend all your time thinking about that which you are attacking, then you are negatively bound to it. You have to find the zeal in yourself and bring that forth. Well, isn't that Ernest Holmes? Be for something and against nothing. That's how we transform our experience of the world, by being for something, by focusing all our energies, all our thoughts, all our actions in the direction of what we want. And I think what this time is bringing up is it's easy to get, pulled off into a direction that we don't want to go, and to begin to focus our energy on the things that we don't want rather than the things we do want. And that's a decision, because both are existing simultaneously, and you get to choose which one you want to engage. Which one are you going to seek out and participate in? That thing which is wonderful and that feeds the world? Are you going to be willing to let go of all the principle being bound by precedent and jump into something new and know the truth that life is unfolding perfectly? Because it has to. There's a law at work. That law never goes away. If it's showing up, we collectively created it. And if we collectively don't like it, then we can each individually focus on what we do want, and that, then you end up joining in wonderful conversations like this with like-minded people who are looking to bring love to whatever shows up. And I know everybody watching today, that's all we want. That's all anybody wants, is to stand in love. It is human nature. It's what we crave. It's what we need. And so let that be the interesting conversation. Things look terrible. How do I bring love to this? How do I show up as love, even in the midst of this, whatever it is? That's a great question. And it's one that helps me to shift my attention back to what's the truth. What's the spiritual principle at play here? Those are interesting conversations to me. And I see Reverend Cheryl has unmuted.
That's our signal. I'm ready to whenever you're done. Yeah. Um, I have to I have to confess that I don't watch the news at all. I haven't watched the news probably in like 7 years. Does that make me socially irresponsible? No, because everybody around me tells me what's going on. So, but I watched a program one time which was on BBC America, where it was at the time it was George W. Bush, and he was on this aircraft carrier on our news where he was in San Diego, he was doing all this, and it looked like he was out at sea because the wind was blowing and the whole bit. Well, BBC showed us what actually was going on. It wasn't that at all. And so I just started realizing that the media and the news and everything else is all from one perspective. It's not from the entire perspective. You have to look at the whole picture. And what it showed me, and sometimes what I see when I hear other people talking about, what's going on in politics and everything else, is there's so much fear. I just remember the last election that there were people in tears that were so upset and so full of fear that our whole country was going to fall apart. Everything was going to go downhill, and from the media and everybody else, it was like everything was so negative. I couldn't go there anymore. I have to live in a space of positive knowing. I have to live in that space of knowing that everything is unfolding, like Dale said, in divine right order, that it's all has a purpose. It's just like there's this quote, it says, how do you know if you're brave if you've never had to be? So how do you know what's going to unfold in front of you if you're not willing to step up and take that principle of knowing that everything is unfolding perfectly? This is the plan. I mean, not a plan that's like destiny or fate or anything like that, but this is what the collective consciousness has created. And I'm just ready to step out of that consciousness and step into love and just know I'm in the perfect place at the perfect time. And everything that's unfolding right now, I'm just going to stay in that place of love. I'm not going to go to fear, because people think that the opposite of love is hate. No, the opposite of love, our greatest enemy, is fear. And when we generate fear and we live in fear, we just create more fear. So from this little point of life, this little expression of God that's going on right here, I'm just going to stay in that place of love and just trust and know that the divine is here and present in every moment. And so I'm good. Thank you for letting me share.
We have a couple more comments here. Peace is the only place where we can create a lasting transformative change that moves us forward. And Lesia said, what we focus on expands. Exactly. If we focus on peace and coming together, then that is exactly what we will expand. Thank you guys for participating today. I love this, that we're getting so many comments, and please keep the comments and questions coming.
So one of the questions that Dale asked us is, how can we navigate this territory in an open and loving way? And for me, the question is really more, how can I navigate this territory from a place of unity? I think love plays a big part here, but it's all for me from about coming from a place of unity. And to answer that question, I really had to also ask a second question of myself, which is, what is this territory anyway? Lori brought up change, all of this change that's unfolding. Well, for me, all of this begins with myself, with being in spiritual leadership with myself. That's really the navigation route for me. And it involves for me a really deep personal commitment, sometimes on a moment by moment basis, to engage in and prioritize my spiritual practices, to utilize spiritual principles, and also to really dig in and engage in, for me, what needs to be a continuous inquiry into my own beliefs, my own motivations, and also my own shadow components. They're there. And why is that? Well, it's because I know that my inner genius, which we all have, you have, when it's fully awakened, when it's fully expressed, it is the key to living every moment at my best. And for me, that's where it starts, how I am living, how I am making a contribution. And I also have to keep it really close to my heart what my true goals are. They can't be too expansive for me. And the true goals are really to first love myself, because it all starts with me, and then to love others, and then to love the universe, period, because that's unity. That's all connected. And you see, I see this territory, what we're experiencing now is not that something is changing. I hear a lot of people say, well, this is changing and that is changing. I see it that we are changing. And what we're experiencing right now is something we all know of as growing pains. So I see this navigation as unfolding sequentially this way. First with me, it starts with me. And then as I grow individually, I contribute to the growth of my spiritual community. And this spiritual community then in turn contributes to the growth of the greater global community. It's all sequential. It all starts with me. We all have an important part to play. And why are we experiencing such diversity of expression? That's a great question that I ponder. And it's because we're all souls that are evolving at a different rate and via different paths. We have many different soul ages expressing on this same planet right here and right now. And some souls are more evolved than others, but individually and collectively, we're all moving toward that greater truth of our lives. And we're all going through this together. We all have a part to play. And as my individual soul age increases through my own spiritual leadership, our collective soul ages increases. So some people say, well, what does it matter if I just, am the best person that I can be? Well, it's a simple math problem, right? Law of averages. And why are our changes expressing in what we might consider to be a discordant way? Well, it's because we're all powerful creators. We can't forget about that piece of it. Life isn't going on without us. We are all powerful creators. We create everything. We create the weather, hurricanes, wildfires, disease, pandemics, earthquakes. Think about it for a minute. Do you think for even 1 second that plate tectonics are more powerful than we are? No way. So internal discord expresses as outer discord. And by the same token, internal harmony expresses as outer harmony. So what's our change, you might ask? We're all going through change. I think we're all in the process of awakening to our oneness. I get back to our unity, both individually and collectively.
I'm just unmuting myself. Unfortunately, I don't get a chance to see everyone here. But here's my thoughts on today's subjects. And I love patterns. I see patterns in everything. And I find it very interesting that our opening question today by Dale is then followed up by the subject matter. And I don't know if she planned this on purpose, but here we go. We're talking about, and not politics, but just life and how it expands and how it reveals itself. And we're talking about a time of relative discord, or what we assume is discord. So our opening question was, where would you go in any time and why? And Gail says she would go back to 10 BC AD right there. But look at where she went, and reflecting back on history, wasn't that a time of great discord? But yet there's beauty there. There's the opportunity for expanding consciousness. Seed was sown right there. Then out the 1940s. And what about the discord that was happening there? The whole entire world, the universe as we knew it as humanity was at odds with each other. Great discord. But yet there's beauty and harmony and a time that you would go back. But yet we expanded beyond that. We had great discord, but yet we came up to that level and beyond that. I talked about the Renaissance back in where the medievals and that time, that period, again, great discord, but yet we're talking about it as nostalgia, going back to a time of beauty, a time of wonderment. So seeing patterns in life and knowing it's nothing but spirit unfolding perfectly all the time, Why should you then, as the viewer listening to us, look at this time today with any fear? Because time and time again, since we've been recording it as humans, have seen a discord. There's beauty in that area, and we've gone beyond it. It's like climbing up the mountain. The mountain is not just one straight line. It goes up a little bit, then down. And so there's each individual little crest that you go up to. So each crest may be a time of resistance or hardship, but yet we come up to that challenge and then go beyond it, raising our consciousness. Each time in history, there's been something that's caused us a little bit of discomfort, but yet we as a collective, we as humanity, we as spirit unfolding have met that challenge and then gone beyond that and raised the consciousness. So this is what I'm saying to you. Whatever your thoughts are about this moment in time, just know it's unfolding perfectly. Like Dale was saying, everything unfolds perfectly. This is a time where we know that there's, depending upon what side of the aisle you're on, what's happening, there's discord, there's always change, but yet we are always able to meet that challenge and then go beyond that and raise our consciousness. Just know that that's what's happening here, and just live in that type of mentality, in that type of foresight, mentally, spiritually, knowing that everything is nothing less than spirit itself unfolding perfectly. And when you can come from that point of love and understanding and knowing, that allows you not to buy into the relative, and allows yourself to step beyond that, because you will be the pinpoint that again raises that consciousness to the next level. And we keep on rising, we keep on expanding, we keep on expanding the love of the universe, which is nothing more or less than spirit. And if anybody else wants to join in,
So
feel
that
free.
made me think of Ernest Holmes' quote, to forget the truth in our moment of need is to prove that we do not know the truth, and that it's in times like this is the most satisfying time to do your spiritual work, right? He says, throw yourself into the sea of receptivity, which is very similar to what Joseph Campbell said. Just fall into it. It's a great time right now for us spiritual seekers and practicers and appliers of spiritual principle right now. I mean, it it's a challenge, but it's a really good challenge. For me personally, the amount of opportunity for my own growth that's coming out of this time is phenomenal. And I think that's true for most of us on this call. Actually, I know it's true for all of us. It's just saying yes to it. Yes, I see this as an opportunity to grow. I see this as an opportunity to throw myself into the sea of receptivity, having cut free of all apparent moorings, as Ernest Holmes says, one of my favorite quotes of his. And I know that Dale is on deck, so I'll pass it off to her. Oh, before we go, we have a couple questions. Linda said, excellent point, William. Everything is unfolding perfectly. It's our spiritual muscle that generates the trust that love will always reign over evil. And we can even go beyond that and say there is an evil. It's all one thing. It's just a continuum. It's a polarity, not two separate things. Cool Inhabitant says, what techniques do you use to move from the massive amounts of media distraction, attempting to channel our thoughts in a specific direction? So I'm going to let Reverend Dale go because she's on deck, and I'm curious
Thank you.
to see what you say about that.
You turn off the TV and you get off of the computer. That's how you do that. Yeah, It's an interesting time. Yeah, you've got it. You really do need, and I love, Cheryl, that I love that you are choosing not to be involved with it, because you don't have to be at all. And I commend you for that. I tend to be somebody that maybe gets a little too involved on some days, but yeah, the important thing to do is to turn away from it. And honestly, I turn to prayer. I read my books that are spiritually inspiring, and it just washes all of that away from me. And you know what? I think I'm going to put a plug in right now, because I know Dr. James wouldn't mind if I did. He has this wonderful spiritual practice called Spirit Breath Meditation. And he does it Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. And you can go to Global Truth Center website to access it. And he also has recorded versions. But I had the opportunity with Reverend Lori this weekend to participate in a training regarding spirit breath meditation. And I was feeling kind of the heaviness of the world in our country on that day before the meditation. And he did the meditation, and it blew all of that anxiety out. And I was restored to peace. And that practice really just rejuvenates and reinstates our natural balance. And since that meditation, I've really been in a great state of being. So anything you can do specifically, like meditation, anything that pulls you out of I call it the information highway, get out of that and drench yourself with some yummy spiritual inspiration, whether it's watching a talk on, I mean, YouTube has so much great stuff right now. Go to YouTube, read, watch a spiritually inspiring movie. I really think the key is to turn your focus onto something really positive, and then that will pull your love and your faith into your heart, because you won't be feeding yourself so much stuff that isn't really serving a higher purpose. Reverend William, I did not put the two together, honestly, the question I asked, and I love how you beautifully found the connector, because that was divine mind working through me, with me being totally unconscious of it, which happens quite often, I might say. Something I wanted to bring into this, we say the Sensational Six, we say, and we talk a lot with our colleagues from class, we say you either believe in spiritual principle or you don't. Which is it? And it's moments like these where I ask myself that question. When I start feeling a little shake, I say, Dale, you either believe it or you don't. And there's no question in my mind that I believe it. So when I ask myself that question, it kind of pulls me out of any kind of monkey mind or false thinking I might be going through. And it's like, yeah, I'm so established in principle, and it shakes free all of that other information that's just not true. And one quote I want to just share with you, this is also from Sermon by the Sea, and then I'll turn it over to whoever's next. Ernest Holmes says, I do not believe there is a single fact in human history or a single manifestation in the universe which is or could possibly be anything other than a manifestation of the one divine mind, the one universal presence, the one infinite spirit. And knowing that, to me, I titled our talk today, Voting for Love. And that's because I think what's been spoken to by so many today is that love is where our consciousness and our energy must reside in, always in life, or as often as we can be. Many of you know who Ram Dass was. What Ram Dass used to do as a practice for himself is any person that caused him to feel, let's say, hate or dislike, he would take a picture of that person and put that person on his altar, because he knew he needed to love that person. That was his spiritual practice. And I think if we're exposing ourselves to images or news or anything like that, and you're getting triggered, look to love, find love for that person or those people in your heart. Because like the quote I started out in the beginning about people who are judgmental, we've got a burden on our heart that's just being displaced. And to be able to love people no matter what they're expressing, and to see that they are precious expressions of spirit, and to find it in your heart, to see it in their heart, to restore your peace, your equilibrium, and your love. And so I'm going to pass it on to somebody else in the group now.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end here, folks. So why don't anybody have any closing comments or insights or a quote or something that could end this beautifully for us today?
Well, we have a comment from a participant. Russ says, I accept my physical birth and death as part of my eternal life. And I think, Russ, that's just a wonderful reminder, that life is eternal. This is just such a little speck on the continuum. And it's just a great reminder. It's a spacious way to engage life, that it is eternal, and everything, it brings us right back to where we began. Everything unfolds perfectly for the highest and best because it is the nature of nature. You know, you can't go against nature. Nature will always win out. Growth is inherent. I mean, I think for me, when I see those little buds of trees coming up after a massive forest fire, which of course we're experiencing a lot of that here right now. Um, it's just a reminder that life finds a way. It always finds a way. And meditating on that and being with that and understanding the internality of our lives is also a wonderful thing to focus on. So thank you, Russ. Thank you for your comment.
Reverend
I'd
Gail?
like to share, yeah, I'd like to share one thing as we're contemplating closing this really rich topic for today. And that's really a concept called spiritual poise. So if you are a person that it is important to you, and I am such a person that I do know what's going on in the world. We have many, many spiritual leaders who have always known what was going on in the world. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. knew exactly what was going on in the world. Jesus of Nazareth knew exactly what was going on in the world. So if you're a person that really does want to know what's going on, the fires, whatever it might be, for me, this all comes back to a concept of spiritual poise. So are you so grounded in your spiritual practice that you're extremely difficult to unbalance, no matter what it is that you're being having the experience of? That's really the question for me. Am I so grounded in my practice that I am extremely difficult to unbalance? And that is my goal. And that's what I call spiritual poise. You know, I am always going to encounter difficulties. We are always going to encounter difficulties. They're inevitable. But if we can encounter those with grace and a sense of lightness, that is spiritual poise. That is staying grounded. And this is all possible when we learn to keep spiritual poise at the center of our identity.
Oh,
I
that was
just had a wonderful image pop up from that, Reverend Gail. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. Remember that growing up? I think we're all about the same age. You know, you could just push them over and they just came right back. It's that spiritual resilience so that no matter what comes up, you know, you go weep, weep, right back and you have that spiritual poise. So thank you, Reverend Gail. That made me smile and it's given me an image to take into my next exploration of what's going on out there. I may wobble, but I never fall down and I go right back to my spiritual poise. So thank you for that.
okay. We're getting close to closing time. Anyone else? One more? No? Okay. Um, I'd like to offer to you right now. This is the time that we spend our time and our treasure and our, was it time, treasure, and help me out here. What's the other one?
Talent.
There you go. We're sharing our talent and everything else with you. But please be aware that it is something that we do to spiritually feed ourselves. And if you feel spiritually fed in this moment or in during these sessions and things, please show that by tithing to our center, by giving back where you're getting fed. It's like if you're not taking anything away from here, if there's nothing that is resonating with you, then okay, then I can understand. Maybe you don't want to tithe. But if anything here resonates with you, as it does with us, then please give back to where you're getting your good. And that's what we want. We're asking you to do that. And you can do it in multiple ways. If you look at the bottom of the screen, when you go online onto our website or on where we are right now, you'll see there's a donate button. You can do that. You can mail it. You can call it in. You can do anything you want to do in order to tithe. But I really ask you, go into your heart and know that this is what is feeding you and what's giving you spiritual growth and spiritual pleasure. And please give back what you're getting. That's it. It's a reciprocal universe. You give, you receive. So please keep that in mind while we continue on doing this. We love doing it. It's nothing that all of us, I think, look very forward to doing this every week because it's always so enlightening and it's such a learning experience for us as well. And so now I'm going to tell you about our announcements for the week. So on Monday next week, we have conversations. Reverend Charles and Carmen Dalziel, I think is how you say it. I'm not sure. But anyway, that's on Monday next week. On Tuesday, we have chapter 8 of Reverend Charles and Jeffron Seeley, and their discussion has been around how to be an anti-racist. So really, that's a great program. You should join. Even if you haven't been part of the other 7 chapters, you can go ahead and jump in at any time and join this. And then on Wednesday, we'll be back again, the Sensational 6. And then also on Wednesdays, we have our Power of 8, which right now we're doing 8 o'clock in the morning and 6:30 at night. So come and enjoy. This is a very, very powerful session. I've been a facilitator for it. And about halfway through, every time I start shaking because the power and the energy that's coming forth from that is absolutely phenomenal. It's great. So please think about jumping in and joining us. And then on Thursday, we have conversations with Reverend Charles and Harold Payne. He's a musician, and join Reverend Charles and get to know him better and also get to know this new Harold Payne. Okay, and then on Friday, we have Reverend Charles in Life on Love. All right, everybody help me out. What time is all of this going on? 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock in the morning. That's what time. All of these things happen. And then on Saturday, our own beloved Reverend Brad is going to be doing the guided meditation. So please join him for that. He is he is really, really great. And then also on Thursdays, we have Social 8, which is William and I, we like to just go and have some fun. And that's all it is. It's just about people getting together and we ask provocative questions and also silly questions and just a way of getting to know other people at our center. But we also have people that are joining us that we're not part of our center that have now joined our center. And even though they live out of town, it's that much fun. We are having a great time. And I think have I missed anything? Oh, and then on Sunday, we have our Sunday service with Reverend Charles. And then immediately afterwards at 11 o'clock, we have our virtual prayer room. Now if you're not sure how that works and maybe you'd like to join it, it's a one-on-one session with a practitioner or one of the reverends. And we just do prayer work for you. And it's called, in our center, we call it Minute Miracle. It's usually about 2 to 3 minutes, but that's the whole point, is just to come in, see the spiritual principle, prayer work, and then let your feet do the work. You take action after we do the work. Here, you do the work there. And I think that's everything. Did I leave anything out? Anyone?
I just want to share, Cheryl, because just to put another plug in for our virtual prayer room. So just so you can see what happened with us this morning, Reverend Lori's internet connection was really bad. And so we all did a really quick down and dirty prayer for her. And she was up and running within 15 seconds. And I think Reverend Cheryl said, heck, it's not 1 minute miracle, it's 15 seconds. So the power of prayer. Right. The power of prayer is phenomenal. And I really encourage all of you, 5 minutes really is all it takes to sit with one of us privately, get a prayer and let your life transform. Really, that's what it's all about, is transformation and coming into that place of peace like we spoke to today. So take advantage of what we're offering. It's a great service that you can, that we're here giving to you. Thanks, Cheryl. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you jumped in. And also know that is when you're in that session with this practitioner, it's totally confidential. It's a totally safe space where you can just come and whatever needs to be said or whatever needs to be healed, we're there to help you. That's our job. Okay. And then I think that's it. That's everything. I hope you'll be joining us at 10 o'clock all week long. We look forward to it. And we look forward to seeing you next week if you're here with us. And so now let's just close this out with a closing prayer. If everybody will be comfortable wherever you are, just feel that space and feel that beautiful power that resides right here, right inside of you, that is the essence, that is the spark, that is the beauty of God expressing through you. And know that we are entirely connected. There is no separation. That we are all one in this full connection with this universal power, this universal spirit. And we are part of this beautiful fabric of the universe. Every point in the universe is expressed right now in me. And every point in the universe is expressed right now in you. And know that as we go forward through this time of turmoil and apparent adversity that is showing up in our lives, know that this is the catalyst. This is what is inspiring us to change. This is what is driving us to move forward into something new and exciting. And we have all of history to show us that this is how it unfolds, always unfolds. Turmoil turns into peace. Peace is just the serenity and the joy and all of the things that we just know that there is more, always ready to appear in our lives, on our planet. And anything that is occurring right now, we just remain in that perfect peace, in that perfect cocoon of love and joy and positivity, knowing that God's here, nothing to worry about. Everything is unfolding perfectly and divinely. And I'm so full of gratitude for my sensational 6 brothers and sisters. And I am so grateful for the words that have been spoken here, that have been put out into the universe to now manifest on this planet, that each point of light, as we join together and as we illuminate our space, we illuminate the world, we illuminate the entire universe. And so I now release my word, knowing that God is already in action, that everything is already unfolding just as it should. And I am so, so grateful for all the good that is now manifesting on our planet. And if this resonates with you, please join me in saying, and so it is. Thank you, everyone. Namaste.